So welcome everyone. Can you guys see my screen? I see lots of nodding heads. Great. So I am going to share my screen and show you really quickly that we do have a little bit of a slideshow too to talk about today, and just kind of go through some of the points so that we don't forget anything that we want to share with you today as Ashley and I kind of start the conversation and then have you join in with us. My name is Donna Dostal, and I am the president and CEO of the Potawatomi County Community Foundation, for those of you that don't know me. So today, just some of the things that we'll be sharing today, and can you see the agenda, Kelly, Dix? All right, good. Okay, so some of the things that we're going to be sharing today are, we're going to talk a little bit about MICAH House and some of the history that they've had with their Champagne and Diamonds event, which has really grown over the last 5 years. And for them to have to pivot very quickly and make that decision to take it online and to make it a virtual event was right at the beginning of this pandemic event. And so it's going to be great to talk with Ashley about that. You know, how did they do that? Some of the logistics involved. What did they do the day of? How did that day look to them? And what are some of the things that they ran into and things that worked well and things that didn't? And some of the things that she learned. And then we'll wrap it all up by kind of turning it over to you and finding out what you're doing. What are the events that you're planning? What are those timelines looking like? So what are some of the ideas that you have? Are you looking for ideas? And then we're also going to share some cool ideas, some resources that you can go out and really pick and choose and think of some things that are going to make it exciting for yourselves, right? So I am with the Potawatomi County Community Foundation. For those of you who don't know who we are a community foundation that really focuses on long-term philanthropy in the community. We're really, it's a public-private partnership. We are with philanthropy and with the community. We focus on making sure that our nonprofit partners are strong and that our community is vibrant. And we do that through really donor-driven philanthropy, helping folks be passionate about what they really want to be passionate about for generations to come. So that's what we do at the Community Foundation. We have lots of new programming and things that we've evolved over time. Two really exciting initiatives that we've introduced over the last year are our Women's Fund of Southwest Iowa, and then we also have a Mental Health and Substance Abuse Fund. And many of you on the call and on the video chat today probably are familiar with our COVID-19 response that we've been doing in partnership with the Iowa West Foundation and several other partners. The Dodge Trust, Google has been very generous, Mid-American Energy. So the Charles Lakin Foundation and a couple of other private funders, including the Peter Kiewit Foundation from Omaha and Mutual of Omaha, have been very generous in that initiative. So those are some of the things that we do at the Community Foundation to really create solutions for our community that are kind of outside of what our nonprofits maybe have a vision or is really to help elevate and amplify what they do and kind of outside of what their purview might be, so we can help with that. So I'm excited to introduce you all to our speaker today and our leader in conversation, Ashley Fader. She's the Director of Donor Relations at MICAH House. And so Ashley, if you want to unmute yourself and talk a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so thank you, Donna, for introducing me and for having me here today. I'm excited to share with you guys more about our event, our virtual event, Champagne and Diamonds. As Donna mentioned, I'm the Director of Donor Relations at MICAH House, and I've been there just a little over 2 years now. And so, you know, I did have the experience of participating in Champagne and Diamonds before it became a virtual event like we did this year. So it was really interesting to see it transition from that in-person event to the virtual event. And yeah, I'm just excited to dive in.
Very good. So thank you so much for being here today, Ashley. And so just to kind of dive right in, and let's start talking about what kind of was the the thought process. First of all, tell us a little bit about Champagne and Diamonds, a little bit of the history of the event, some of the things that the successes that you have experienced, and where you were really kind of going with the event this year.
Yeah, so this was the 23rd year of the event. In the past, last year in 2019, it was a pretty big event. It's an event that's centered around the Kentucky Derby. We do a live stream of the Kentucky Derby. There's a lot of different event components, including like a wine pull, a silent and live auction. There was for individuals to place a guess on a horse to win the Derby. Just a lot of different things. And last year we had about 500 people in the room, and we raised just over $146,000, which was a record year for us. That was a really successful event, and it went really well for us. And we were hoping to build on that for 2020. It was really our goal to have 600 people in the room this year and raise $160,000, and maybe even go above and beyond that. People really love Champagne and Diamonds. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of great energy in the room. So when coronavirus started happening and things started shutting down, we quickly had to learn that things were gonna look a little different this year. And we really, had to be thoughtful in how we wanted that to look and what we were gonna do. So yeah, it was a quick change for us. As I'm sure there's lots of changes for all of you guys as well.
So talk a little bit about some of the things that you really, some of the aspects of the situation that helped lead you to the decision to move your event online and not cancel completely.
Right. So the Kentucky Derby was actually moved to later this year in the fall. And we just knew that our event could not wait. So with the goal of 160,000, that's about 10% of our budget, and we just couldn't wait to have that fundraising be pushed off till later in the year. There were also other considerations we had to take into account when we were thinking about what to do for the event. So if we did decide to push it back into the fall and maybe do that in-person event, we would have to think about what that might look like for next year's event, for 2021, because we typically start reaching out to our sponsors late in the fall. So if we were going to push our event back, would we then hold our event and then turn right around and ask for a sponsorship again? Would we do that same thing for auction items? And we realized that just really wasn't feasible. We just decided there are other things we can do. We know that people are passionate about MICAH and the work that we're doing, and they love the event. We already had a lot of sponsors in the door, and so we just made the decision to take it online and to go virtual with it. We did have a lot of conversations about what that might look like. Do we change the theme of the event? Do we try and do a semi-in-person event where we encourage people to gather in small groups and kind of celebrate the event and the night together? Again, as time went on, we realized that wasn't even an option either. Just the logistics of trying to coordinate that got really complicated. So we just decided to take it all online and to do the virtual event and just move forward with it.
Very good. So talk a little bit about the sponsors too. So what was the conversation that you had with your sponsors going into that, and what was the reaction from them? How did they come back to you, and what was their thoughts on it going to a virtual event?
Right. So that was one of the first things we did once we realized that we were going to be going virtual, is that we reached out to all of our sponsors and just kind of explained the situation, kind of mentioned the same things that I had said previously, that this event is 10% of our budget and their sponsorship and support is vitally important to the success of the event. And we were going to do everything we could to honor the benefits that we had originally stated. Now, I know that a large portion of their benefits are event tickets and attendance at the event. And I realized that that was not something we were going to be able to do. And it was clear to them that that was not an option either. But everybody came back and was very supportive. They were understanding. I think for a lot of them, they had already written the check. They had already committed to that sponsorship. So it was not an option for them to walk back on that commitment and to kind of pull themselves out of it. They realize, especially with the situation that we're in, that MICAH House's mission is so important to the community, especially at a time like this. A lot of people are losing their jobs. They're not able to pay their rent. They're losing their housing. And MICAH House needs to be there for them when they need the support. And so having the sponsors continue to be there and support the event was vital. And I think that they understood that as well.
Yeah, and we're in a little bit later on, as we discuss a little bit further down the road here today, we're going to talk a little bit about what some of the things are that you know an organization can do to ensure that a sponsor or that an attendee has value. You know, they get that perceived value. You know, part of being a sponsor is, you know, a lot of times that money comes out of marketing dollars. So what can you do to really help amplify that marketing investment? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I'm sure that that's kind of one of the things that is first and foremost when you're asking sponsors to be part of any of your events as an as a fundraising event. What is the kind of what's in it for me for those sponsors? So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So yeah. let's talk a little bit then, Ashley, about the event planning. So all the way from acquisition, as you were acquiring, so where were you at, since you did have to pivot so quickly and it was such a close proximity to the actual event, less than 2 months out, about where were you as far as like acquiring auction items and stuff like that?
So we had already had a few auction items put together. A few of our live auction items were already committed. Ideally, we would have liked to have more. Typically, we're collecting items and people are dropping things off right up until, you know, the week of the event. And 2 months out, so our event was May 9th. We did push it back a week to give us a little more time to coordinate everything. But from March until May, we really lost those 2 months to get those items in the door, to reach out to additional people and businesses and ask for their support. We just knew that that wasn't an option. So many businesses were closing, you know, whether that was restaurants or shops or services like salons, things like that. We knew that they were losing business as well. So it was really hard position for them to be in if we were to ask them for anything else. So we knew we just had to go with what we had and we were just going to make the best of it. One thing we did do that I think was really important was we decided to not just focus on our needs and what we needed to make our event a success. We wanted to support the local community, and that's why we brought in we did a support local kind of gift card option. So individuals could purchase a gift card for, I think it was $30. The gift card was $20, and then $10 went to MICAH House. Oh, nice. So individuals could purchase gift cards to local restaurants. So they were supporting the business, they were supporting MICAH House, and overall it supported our event. So that was just a really cool way that we were able to incorporate businesses in a different kind of way. It also worked out well because then we asked those businesses to help us promote the event. So 712, like Coneflower Creamery in Omaha. There were like 6 different businesses that people could choose from. And then we provided those restaurants and businesses with graphics that they could share, showing that they were supporting MICAH House, we were supporting them, and individuals could support both of us by purchasing a gift card. So although we were down on auction items, we just added in something else to help boost our fundraising and also support others.
Very good, very good. So in the whole logistics planning of the event, when you decided to move it online, what was the timeline? How did that change your timeline? And where did you have to pivot all of those things as far as like donor acquisition and auction item acquisition, logistics for the event, the planning and stuff like that? Did certain things change? Did time frames shrink, and some kind of gave you a little bit more time? What did that look like?
Yeah, so like I said, we pushed our event back. It was originally scheduled for May 2nd. We pushed it back to May 9th to just give us an additional week to kind of figure things out. Everything was changing very quickly, especially like in those first few weeks. It was really hard to imagine what everything might look like in May. Would we be back to kind of normal? Would we not? What were those kinds of things like? So as far as like acquisition though, it all kind of just stopped. Like as soon as we realized what was going on and how this was going to impact our event and other businesses, we didn't ask for additional sponsorships. We stopped asking for silent auction items. As far as the timeline though, we did decide to open the silent auction earlier than we normally would to give people more time to bid on things and give us more time to promote it. I think with a shorter timeline, it does create a sense of urgency, which is good, but people had a little extra time on their hands, a little, it gave them more opportunities to bid on things. I know with a couple of items, it became a little more competitive. So it gave people the opportunity to bid back and forth and kind of bid against each other, which is always fun to see. But yeah, everything, all of the acquisition, it really just came to a halt, and we quickly spent, most of our time just trying to figure out, okay, what does this look like online? Like, what are the logistics even for the auction items? What is going to be feasible? So if it's a larger item, we didn't include it just because the logistics of having somebody come pick it up or mailing it were just too difficult. A lot of us are working from home right now, so trying to coordinate how somebody would even come to MICAH House to pick it up. So we did a lot of gift cards, a lot of event tickets that are further down the road. So things in the fall, football tickets and things like that. Basically, if it could be mailed, we included it. And if it was too big than that, we really had to weigh whether it was going to be worth it or not to include it in the auction.
Oh, very good. And so we'll talk a little bit about like the after event follow-up, like how did you then execute on all those things? What was it? What did it look like? Did you have to schedule time to be able to, I think it's great that you had a lot of things that you could just mail out, right? So,
right.
But yeah, we can maybe talk about, we will talk a little bit about like, what was that post-event like? So let's talk about planning for the event that night then. When you realized that you were going to have to change the event and have it be a compelling online event, what was that aha moment, and how did you start making plans to, okay, well, what are we going to do to fill our time?
I think the first thing I did was I wanted to see what other people were doing. So there were a couple of organizations here locally and then across the US as well that I signed in and watched their events so I could see what's the flow of their event, what do the different components look like, how does this even work? Before this event, I had zero experience with broadcasting software. I had no idea that this stuff really even existed or how it worked. But we were able to work with our bidding software. We used Qtego, and they were helpful in getting us set up. They had done it one other time with Make-A-Wish Iowa, and so they were able to kind of use that as a trial run. And then we took their advice and experience and just kind of ran with it and made it our own. So we really worked on, you know, figuring out the logistics of how to get our video where it needed to be. So for us, that was, we saw another organization, it was an organization in Chicago that had it worked out so that their virtual feed or their live feed of their event was displayed on their giving platform, so that when people were watching the live feed, the options to donate were right below. So they could quickly say that, you know, like, oh, while you're watching us, make sure you click down below to make your donation. And it had all the giving levels laid out. And we thought, that's perfect. We need to incorporate that. So we worked with Qtego to make that happen. We also really wanted to have it online as a Facebook Live option. Technology is hard. We weren't quite able to figure out how to make that work because of the logistics of it. On the back end, it sounds really complicated, but we had a setup with the broadcasting software. And there were links included in that for, like, our executive director, James, his video feed was a link inside the broadcasting software. The broadcasting software streamed to Twitch, and then Twitch was pushed through to our giving platform. So
what is Twitch then? Tell us what Twitch is.
Yeah, Twitch is a streaming service. A lot of people use it for video games. They'll stream their video games while they're playing. It's got a chat feature on the side, and that's mostly, I would say, a majority of people that use it for that. But for us, that was the easiest way to push our content where we needed it to go. The software that we used to broadcast it's called OBS, which is Open Broadcast Software. Yeah, Donna's got a screenshot of it there. So you can kind of see the two images there. On the left-hand side is James's setup the night of the event. You can see that he has 3 screens there. The big one up top is the layout or schedule of the event and what that looks like. So the highlighted things you see there, it's got yellow and pink and blue, and that kind of told us who was doing what and when it needed to happen. The other one, I guess, to the left, the lower left in the back, was our Qtego software. So he could see the live stream and see what the final result looked like. And then the computer that's in front was the computer that was being used for his camera. So that was set up so that it would capture him. He could then see it on that back camera. And then the top screen was to kind of lead him through the event. And then the image on the right-hand side was the broadcasting software we used. Again, I was such an amateur at this. There was a big learning curve. But there's endless options when it comes to this broadcasting software. And after I got into it and really started learning about how it worked and what it looked like, I really feel now that anybody can learn how to use this. It may look a little intimidating, but once you start playing around with it, it gets a lot easier. And the images you see right there are on the left-hand side of the broadcasting software. That is what I would see and prepare on my screen. And then there's an option in the middle to push it out live. And so where you see the Open Hearts Award graphic, that's what everybody else would be seeing at the time. So there's like a staging area and then a live area. and just getting all of those elements put together and then pushing it out. That's what took up a lot of the time, my time in preparation for this event, was just putting those scenes together and really working on the flow of the event and being able to switch back and forth between the screens, and updating all of those elements in real time.
And so you were able then, Ashley, to move between whether or not you wanted to take a look at the silent auction board. You were able to take a look at the heart filling up as donations came in. Maybe even kind of you even did a raise the paddle and stuff like that. You did some of the things that you did that were still elements that you would have in a live situation. You continued to have, but you facilitated it online. So talk a little bit to, like, how did you facilitate the raffle? You guys had a diamond necklace raffle. How did that work for you guys?
So yeah, so that was one of the in-person things that we knew we wanted to take online. Everyone who attends the event really loves the diamond raffle, and it's really exciting. It's typically the last thing that happens during an in-person event, so we knew we wanted to keep that. So what we did for that is we just sold the raffle tickets online. We sold them up to a couple of days before the virtual event, and then of everybody who purchased a raffle ticket, we selected 50 to be our top 50 raffle winners, and each of them got a bottle of champagne. So it took a lot of coordinating the logistics of driving those bottles of champagne around Omaha and Council Bluffs and dropping them off. But I think it added an extra exciting element to kind of make sure those people were excited to tune in and to give them something to celebrate. They had purchased a raffle ticket. They were in the running for the final drawing, and it was just a way for us to celebrate them and to make it seem more real. Because I mean, we all know now that it's a lot of screens a lot of the time, and so just having something else to get people excited, it was really good for our event. So we were excited to keep with the diamond raffle.
So don't you think that too is a very important point, that you 2 weeks before this event, you were selling those raffle tickets, constantly pushing that out, pushing it out via your text messaging software, right? Through Diego, and then going and dropping those off, however it is, dropping it off on someone's front porch or in their office or whatever it is. So you still had that live piece of it. But then on the night of, all of those pieces kind of came together as a celebration of all of the work that you were doing up to that point. So that then all of a sudden in your planning had to become part of your timeline, right?
Right. And so that was a little complicated, a little stressful. But that's where I really think that the team is so important. Typically working on the event leading up to it, it was myself and James, our executive director, and then Daly Olson, who does a lot of our social media, and she was heavily involved in the auction. She worked and recruited other staff members and some friends to help, drive those bottles around and get it done. And she did a great job, but it really just, gave me a deeper appreciation for having other people who are willing to jump in and just help out wherever they need be, because this event really would not have happened without everybody just being all hands on deck.
Right. Especially considering the short time frame that you had to work on. But going forward, wouldn't you, if you were going to continue to offer a virtual event such as this, as you probably are getting ready to do one in the fall, your timeline is now changing considerably, I would imagine, that, the planning of and preparing for a virtual event just really shifts everything into a totally different mindset from a planning perspective. Because when you're putting together that timeline of getting everything in the door and making sure everything's at the event, and and making sure that you have a playbook for the way things are going to flow for the evening, all of a sudden your evening so all of a sudden turns out to be a week or two in advance of the event, and everything is culminating on that day. So that's, I think, a really important takeaway even of this discussion is, how do you revamp that timeline, right? And it's going to be different for
Right.
everyone. If you don't have a silent auction, if it's something that's just straight up a virtual event, and maybe you're doing a call out the night of, and doing kind of a raise the paddle sort of a thing, that's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really want that hands-on personal touch of actually, touching, actually reaching out to folks in person in advance of the event, that's going to definitely put a wrench in or a nuance into your timeline, right?
Right.
Very,
Right.
very interesting. So, on the logistics, so talk about the planning too that you put into it to have your speakers and your entertainment. What did that look like, and what kind of planning did you do to make sure that the speakers, the auctioneers, and then the fact that you're offering live entertainment now, which was something that you really, maybe, I don't think that you necessarily had done that in the past. I mean, the live entertainment was watching the Kentucky Derby on the screen, right, in the past. So all of a sudden you had to shift that. Talk about what you had to do to plan for that.
Yeah, so we knew that for this virtual event, we knew that it would last about an hour. And we also knew that if it was just an hour of James talking, that would be very monotonous. I am sure that James could fill an hour if he needed to. But we knew we needed to mix it up. We knew that he would need a break here and there too. So we really wanted to incorporate a couple of different things. We did decide to incorporate live music into the first part of it. Over these last few weeks, there's been a number of online concerts that people have tuned in for. And we thought just bringing that into our event as a part of it might encourage somebody to log on. Our performer, his name was Topher. He was fantastic. He was exceptional to work with, and his music was great. It also helped give us. He played right at the beginning of the event, and we had him play starting at like 7:45. The event started at 8, so we had him starting to play at about 7:45, and he played until about 8:10. And that worked out really well because it gave people a little bit of flexibility to log on. So if we were to kick off our event and just jump right in and just get started right away, that might have not worked out for some people. If somebody would have logged on 5 minutes late, they might have felt like they were behind and not knowing what was going on. So having him play and perform right at the beginning gave us some good flexibility for our attendees. The other thing that we incorporated was pre-recorded videos. So we had our board president, Paula Hazelwood. She put together a welcome video. She just kind of thanked the sponsors, welcomed everybody, thanked everybody for their support. And then you also see in that screenshot, there's a video of Gail. Mutual of Omaha had received the Open Hearts Award this year, and she just did a little thank you video. It was about 30 seconds long. So these weren't real long videos, but just being able to switch back and forth between James and a pre-recorded video, like I said, gave him a little break, gave him a little breather, and also switched it up. So it wasn't all James the whole time. And I really think that that was important for our event. And then also, I mean, you can see on that screen, that heart graphic, that was a good element to include so we could watch that heart graphic filling up in real time. That screen also included down in the bottom right-hand corner. You can't see it because his video wasn't turned on when I took this screenshot, but that's where James's video would have appeared. So he would have been talking through this, but it would have been a different picture. So it's not just James's face in the screen the whole time. We could switch it up so that there were different graphics coming and going, and really kept people engaged and interested to see what was going to happen next.
So you can see too that this would be a great opportunity to showcase agency videos or client testimonials, donor testimonials, board member engagement and stuff like that. Great opportunity for for folks that are supportive of your organization to come forward and do little snippets, just like Gail did for you guys. That would be a great opportunity to show those and not lose people's attention, right?
Yeah, we actually did a few videos, impact videos as well during our Raise the Paddle portion. So we would show a video about families, and then James would talk about the importance of the donation supporting families who are experiencing homelessness. And so, yeah, you can see our different giving levels over there. During the live event, our video was just above those giving levels. So it was our video, and then you could see our giving levels down below. And James would just talk through each of those, and we'd show a little clip. And it was a really good way to communicate the importance of our mission and to talk about how impactful donations would be towards that.
And that was kind of your Raise the Paddle piece of it?
Which did take up a large portion of the event, because I mean, we wanted to be mindful of everybody's time. We didn't want to just talk for talk's sake. We wanted to share our mission. We wanted to share the importance of our mission. We wanted to share some videos and then really call it a night. So to go through each of those levels and kind of talk about the different impacts that each one of them would have took up a good portion of the event. But by including the videos with it, I think it was really impactful.
Very good, very good. And so there's a great question by Deb Peterson. After the event, and we can talk even more about this kind of from a post-event perspective, did you send out an after-event survey to see what people thought of the event?
We did not send out a survey. That was one thing that we didn't do. We did send out thank yous to everybody who purchased a raffle ticket, participated in the silent auction, or, did I already say raffle ticket? I think it's a raffle, auction, or donated. So we communicated with our supporters that way. We did receive a lot of good feedback. And I think just from everything we learned, I think that it is a good way to incorporate others who may not be able to attend the event in person. In future years, this is something that we would consider moving forward.
So you kind of, that was a great segue into, okay, so now that you've executed 1 hour of down and dirty, oh my gosh, we can't get Facebook Live to work, blah, blah, blah. And for 1 hour, everything went great. You had live video, you had live music, you could see the real streaming, your heart filled up, everything went great. So coming into the event, and you and I talked about this a little bit, you guys had set goals, right? And so talk about your goals and where you ended up and how you feel you did overall.
Yeah, so I mentioned at the start that our goal for the event was 160,000. Our adjusted goal, because we didn't have the same expenses that we normally would, we didn't have the venue costs, we didn't have a full bidding software cost because we were doing a lot of it ourselves on the back end. So we were able to save on some of those costs. So our adjusted goal was 115,000. We ended up for the night at about $85,000 raised. So while we didn't hit our goal, I still think the event was a success. We saw a significant number of new donors who participated, people who had never attended the event before, had never donated before, showed up. They purchased raffle tickets, they participated in the silent auction, they made donations. And I think that's going to be really important moving forward for years in the future. We're going to be able to invite them then, hopefully, to attend an in-person event in the future and just to continue to participate in our mission. So that was that. I think that was one of the big successes. So although our fundraising didn't hit where we had hoped, I think that there were a lot of factors that played into that. Being virtual was probably just one of them. But I think overall it worked out really well.
So so if we move into kind of the post-event part of this, where we did to kind of talk a little bit already about the fact that you didn't necessarily survey your folks, but you got good feedback, and you have it looked like you acquired some new donors. One of the great questions that came through from Kelly is, what was the conversation or the communication that you had with folks that maybe were single ticket participants, not necessarily corporate people, and or
Right.
people from a corporate sponsorship? How did they engage, and how did you communicate the value of them participating?
Yeah, so we had opened ticket sales up for the event before we realized that it was going to become a virtual event. And we struggled with what to do, but in the end, we decided to leave it up to them. So I reached out to each of them individually and, said, I completely understand if you would like a refund because we're not going to have an in-person event. And everybody was so kind and just said, no, that's okay. Just go ahead and keep it as a donation. And actually it worked out, I guess, well for us, because one of the people who had ended up purchasing a ticket before we had decided to move it virtual, I would call her a social media influencer. She has about 30,000 followers on Instagram. And so, when I reached out to her to talk to her about, what could become of her ticket, if she would be willing to donate that or if she would like a refund, we had a conversation and she said that she would actually promote the event for us. So she posted on Instagram and it reached her followers. And I'm not sure if any of the new people we received came directly from her, but just having that kind of platform and being able to share our message and our mission that way, I think was super beneficial. And like I said, I think that when people purchase a ticket for an event like Champagne and Diamonds, they are looking forward to attending in person. They are looking forward to, having a meal and drinks with their friends. But in the end, I think that they also realize that they're supporting a nonprofit, and that's really why they're attending the event. And everybody I talked to said, yes, go ahead and keep that as a donation, and we'll look forward to seeing you in future years. So I think it worked out well.
Very good. And so what are some of the things that you think that you do differently, though, Ashley? Some of the lessons that you feel like you've learned all the way from logistics to night of to after the event?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things that we would do differently if we were going to do this in the future. So I did say that we streamed this through our bidding software, and the video lived on the Qtego site, and it was really nice to have those donation options right below. But I think in the future, if we had to choose between having it on our bidding software or having it on Facebook Live, I would choose to have it on Facebook Live. I say that because there were less obstacles and less barriers. Somebody who may not even be familiar with the event might see it pop up in their news feed and just log on that way. So I think that we would go that route in the future. And then I also think that while it was exciting to incorporate so many different aspects to our event, like I had talked about, we had the silent auction, we had the diamond raffle, we had the opportunity for people to make just a donation, and we also had the support local gift cards. I think for most people that was too many options. So too many different asks, too many, A, B, C, and D. But if we would have just kept it simple and had one or two options, and I would say for us in the future, that's donations, just a straight donation, or silent auction. that would probably be the way to go. I just like to keep it simple. I don't want it to be confusing for anybody. And I think that would really work best for most people. It makes it fast and easy, and that's really what you want when somebody is ready to support.
Very good. Was there anything that, from a post-event perspective that you feel like you would do now that was logistically difficult, or that you really feel that you should do, or you would recommend that folks do?
I think just getting in there and trying it, like, it may seem intimidating. It may seem like you don't know what you're doing, but I guarantee you can figure it out. And you can always ask for help. I'm willing to, provide some assistance if needed, answer questions, things like that, just because I know it's so important. Like I said, this was a big event for us. It was important for our mission that we moved forward with this. And I'm sure, like, for a lot of you, it's important to move forward with your events, and not put it off. And that may be a little scary, but I think it's well worth it in the end.
Very good. So as we're kind of winding down our time, we've actually got only about 10 minutes left. I would love to open it up to our group to hear what you all are working on. Are you planning a virtual event right now? Are you working through some of the same issues that Ashley has worked through? And are you still looking for ideas? If you're looking for ideas, we're just at the very end of this, we have some great, cool ideas that Rachel Moorhead on our team, she did a little bit of research, and we're going to be able to share those with you as well. Oh, this is a great question, though, before we go to that point. Donna asks, were you able to gain any data on how long people actually stayed tuned in, and how did people drop in and out? Ashley?
Yeah, so that is one of the nice things about Twitch, is that I did receive a report afterwards. It didn't tell us how long people stayed, but it did tell us that we had, I wrote it down, 280 unique viewers. So 200 people logged on. I did not expect that many people to tune in. I think for me, success would have been 100 people. So to see 280, which is almost half of what we were hoping for if we had an in-person event, I was excited to see that people actually dropped by. But I do think that goes back to also thinking about Facebook. How many more could we have reached if we were on Facebook? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I think it probably would have been a few more. At least that's what I would hope. But I still think having 280 unique viewers is a success.
Fabulous. So, I just wanted to share really quickly that I was on an event that was sponsored by Leadership Iowa, and we had young people and old people, or just people from all over that were participants from Leadership Iowa, on where they did a virtual comedy event from 3 different bars throughout the state of Iowa, and they moved from venue to venue, all in that format, and folks could then log in to a common website and donate to each one, or pay, leave a tip sort of for each one of those comedians at each one of those bars. And I thought that was such a cool idea. So when I experienced their event, and then also knew that they had, experienced some success, it was great to be able to have her share today. So I really think it's great for us to kind of open up the conversation and hear what you all are doing or planning. So Kelly, if you're on here and you want to go ahead and unmute, tell us a little bit about your gala and what you're trying to plan for right now.
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. So I'm with Grief's Journey, and we have our Comfort Food Classic every fall, which is a local chef competition. So we are kind of making the switch right now, possibly to be doing kind of either that hopping moment that you mentioned, Donna, of doing live cooking classes with the chefs, and possibly having our viewers at home be cooking along and getting those recipes out, and honestly kind of focus maybe on, what is that 15 minutes or less that you can make in your pantry, because we're all home right now, and then kind of getting the chef input for that. So still promoting local restaurants, still using it as the fundraiser, That's just kind of the one thing that we're tooling with. We're not changing the date. We're still promoting that it's going to happen then. But all these thoughts were great to keep it to an hour. Broadcasting software, haven't even thought about that. But it's the 14th year for this event, so I'm pretty sure that our sponsors have been very loyal and very supportive, and they understand how impactful this event is to us. But that's the big thing that we're working on right now.
Very good. So Marsha Williams said that they are also, as you can see, they're planning their event still to be a real gathering, a real time gathering, but you're kind of maybe making plans for a Plan B virtual event. Marsha, did you want to share anything about what you guys are working on right now to do that?
Yeah, sure, Donna. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Yeah, we unfortunately postponed our event. So our 26th year of our Wine and Chocolate Festival was postponed to August. It was supposed to be the last week in March. So very close to right when everything came out. We didn't really feel like we would have enough time to move that to a virtual event. So we have postponed it to August, which I heard earlier that she made the point of, wow, that's going to be really close to our next year event as well, because we do usually have that in the spring. So, and that was something that we did reach out to our sponsors and our longtime donors and really just made that ask and was honest and said, you know, what are your thoughts? And they're like, hey, we're going to support you, whether it's now, August, and again next year. So that was nice that they were very transparent and honest with us as well. Now we're in the position that we're planning for Plan B because we don't know. Our event is actually held in the Dunes through our Sioux City office for the Alzheimer's Association. So they're under different guidelines as well. We're hoping that attendance-wise, because we normally have about 400, that, you know, large events of that size will be able, but we're like, how can we fit 400 in with social distancing and all of those? So we're really looking at different platforms. So thanks for the open broadcast software info, because that's really what we're trying to figure out, what systems we're going to use and just gather information in case we do need to go to Plan B. So thanks for sharing, guys.
Very good. So Corey did have a quick question that, Ashley, if you don't mind addressing quickly, because I know we're winding down on our hour, but so how did you handle the pickup and delivery of silent auction items and such to the winners?
Yeah, so for anything that couldn't just be mailed or that was a little too big, we just provided those individuals a couple of small windows of time over the course of like 2 weeks to see what would work. And then if those times didn't work, we coordinated a different time. But then they could come to MICAH House, to the back side, our donation door, and we would just meet them out there and just make a quick handoff. We would have them call right when they got there so we could just run it out really quick. And it really worked out pretty well. Everybody who came seemed really comfortable with that.
So very good. Well, thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to very quickly share my screen one last time because there's a couple of great resources that Rachel Moorhead was able to bring forward, and we're going to send these out to you on a follow-up email. But there's a couple of fun things that we found that are kind of new best practices or new cool ideas that you might be able to take advantage of. On the event manager blog, we'll provide you with the link for this. They have 10 ideas of amazing things to do, like real-time illustration drawings during your session, live games and competitions that you can do, and they even give you the apps that you can use to be able to do that. High production video as an option. So, and that's something that Ashley used. They used video for their for both Paula Hazelwood and for Gail from Mutual of Omaha, and so that you can kind of break things up and really. And if you use something that's really high quality, you're able to go in and do some high quality videos. It really does enhance that experience. AI generated recommendations. There's actually a webinar that's coming up. There's a couple of links on here of webinars for these ideas that you'll be able to access. I love the fact that Twitch is it's kind of an immersive environment facilitating device. When you're talking about video games, first person shooter games, that is something that's like real time, really an immersing process. So to be able to, our projects, so to be able to use that is a really cool tool. We'll also send you a link for some bidding software and how it can easily integrate with your donor management software, whether it be through Salesforce or Qtego. This link does have some great information on it on how to utilize those different options. And then the other one, this one here, online engagement from the Soapbox Engagement blog, Engage blog, 20 ideas for virtual fundraisers. Great ideas, all kind of index so that you can click on those and read about each one of them. And the ideas of either creating a documentary or ways to really enhance and make your virtual event a standout event regardless of what the circumstances are. Your virtual event can be very successful, especially even like Ashley said, with a very short 2-month window, they had to really pivot. So yes, you can do it. You can do it, Alice, and you can do it in a very short timeline. So does anybody else have any questions before we go ahead and dismiss for today? Everything has been recorded today. We will send out a link. We'll have this live on our Make It Happen website on our on the Potawatomi County Community Foundation webpage. We'll send out a link for that. If you have any questions for Ashley, we'll also provide her her email and personal phone number, all those things. Her address at home. No, I'm just joking. You can certainly just give Ashley a call. She's been so very gracious with your time. Thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing your story of success. I love that applause. Yes, you definitely. Great information. If there's anything that you would like to learn more about virtual fundraising or fundraising in general, those are some of the things that we talk about with people all the time at the Community Foundation. So don't hesitate to reach out to us and to learn more about some of the things that we're doing at the Community Foundation to help make our nonprofit partners strong and our community vibrant. So Ashley, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Be sure and tell James we all send our love. And everyone that was on today, thank you for joining us. And I hope that you have a great day.
Thanks, Donna.
Thank you.